since we're all comic people, the other thing that blows my mind about Frank Zappa, I don't know if you are aware of this, but he was neighbors and friends with Jack Kirby.
No way!
No! What?
I mean, if I could be a fly on the wall anywhere, it would be those two having a conversation.
You just heard from this week's guest. I'm David Hyde. I'm joined by my friends Christian Gossett and Chris Simon. Welcome to the Superfan podcast, where the people who make the comics you love talk about the things they love that aren't comics.
Patrick McDonnell's beloved and award-winning comic strip Mutz has appeared in over 700 newspapers across 20 countries for 30 years. The one and only Charles Schulz called it one of the best comic strips of all time. Patrick is the author of several New York Times bestselling picture books, including The Gift of Nothing and the Caldecott honor-winning Me, Jane. He lives in New Jersey. Today, Patrick is here to talk about Frank Zappa. Patrick, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
So Frank Zappa, let's start there. Who knows where we'll end up? But do you remember the first time either you heard a Frank Zappa song or it made an impression on you, or you started realizing that there's something different about this guy?
For me, as with most things, it was visual. I don't know if you're familiar with Cal Schenkel, did his artwork for his records. And in particular, there was a record called Reuben and the Jets. And it had this crazy cartoony painting of the band in like 1950 doo-wop outfits. And it was just so different and so cartoony. It just really appealed to me. And I have to be honest, he used to draw Frank, who had a big nose and a mustache. And the drawing of Frank on that cover was definitely an inspiration for Ozzy and Mutz. So it started out good. Yeah.
Wow. I'm just now piecing that together. That makes so much sense. Oh.
Yeah, Cal Schenkel's great. And influenced a lot of cartoonists. I mean, he was a big influence on Matt Groening and Gary Banter. So he's an unsung hero for sure. But then when I heard the music, it blew me away. That was the first album I bought, which is a strange first Frank Zappa album because it was his version of 1950 doo-wop music, his take on it. So it wasn't a typical album. But then a friend of mine had a brother who was in college, and he sat down with us once. This is probably when I was 12 years old. And he played Hot Rats, which is probably my favorite Frank Zappa album, which had a lot of jazz influences in it. And that blew me away. And then my friends and I just became big Frank Zappa fans.
So, Patrick, how old were you then when you first heard his music or saw the record?
I'm going to probably say 13, young. Yeah, I was music was big in our house. My mom and dad met at Cooper Union Art School in New York City. And not that they were big music fans, but they were hip, they were arty. but they didn't go on to become artists. My dad ended up being a beer salesman, and my mom was a teacher. But art and music was encouraged in the house, which was a blessing for me. And so living in New York when they were going to school, they used to go to the jazz clubs and see Charlie Parker and stuff like that. So there was a lot of nice music in the house. And when my brothers and my sister and I started getting into rock and roll, we're talking the 60s, my mom was as interested as we are. And not that my mom was a hippie, but, she would listen to all that stuff. And she actually took us to the Fillmore East when we were 10, 11, 12 years old. And she took us to Madison Square Garden to see Jimi Hendrix when I was probably about 13 too.
Oh, wow.
Come on.
So music was part of our house. And my brother played guitar, and I took saxophone in grade school, because that was the only hip instrument. You couldn't take guitar or drums back then. It was, woodwind, alto sax and stuff like that. But then my younger brother wanted to play drums. My God, I can't imagine it now, but my mom actually bought him a cheesy drum set. And he gave up on it really quick, and then I started playing it, and then I got into playing drums and started playing in bands with my brother as early as 13 years old.
Yeah, I read that you were in a band with your family. Can tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, when we were young, we had played bands, and we were very influenced by Zappa. We played pretty crazy stuff when I think about it for a 13-year-old. And we were really into Captain Beefheart, too. So it was eclectic music. And then in the late 70s, when punk rock was just happening, that looked kind of like what we were doing in the sense that it was definitely crazy stuff, and we enjoyed crazy stuff. So we decided to let's give it a shot. We'll go to New York, CBGB's, and start a punk band. So we did. It was like a very Zappa-esque punk band. It was a crazy band, and we did that for quite a few years. We played with the Ramones and Blondie. It was a very crazy, happening scene. It was really fun it seemed like a lifetime ago, but it was a really fun time.
Name of your band?
Steel Tips.
Wow.
There's a few things online. I don't think they represent us the best, but we put out our own record, self-distributed. Unfortunately, that was before people had phones and videos, so there's not much video of those days of us.
So true.
Oh man, that's kind of a bummer, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it feels like when it's so long ago and, you're in a completely different place, it almost feels like, it happened to a different person, when you think back on things like that. Like I have a lot of those moments where I'm like, wow, did that really happen? If I didn't have something to look at, I probably would think it was all in my imagination.
Yeah.
No.
But then sometimes it feels like it was just yesterday, too.
Yeah.
Time's a funny thing.
Tell me about it.
So when you were playing music with your family, were you guys always doing originals, or would you do covers?
Well, when I say family, my brother was on guitar.
Okay.
As it turns out, I didn't know it back then, but Karen, my wife, was one of the singers.
Oh.
But she wasn't my wife when we started. So I guess that's family when I think about it. And we did our own. We did our own things. I mean, we did a few covers. We did a Captain Beefheart cover, Zigzag Wanderer. We did a Buddy Holly song. We did a song called He Hit Me and It Felt Like a Kiss. Same thing about, we did some covers, but it was mostly original stuff.
That's quite an iconic song. That's produced by Phil Spector, right?
Yeah.
Phil Spector. Wow, that's pretty legit.
People and think it was
Karen sang that one.
It's true.
You said your wife was one of the singers in the band, so there were multiple singers, or like people?
There was two singers. A friend of ours who was this big biker guy, he was like 6 feet something, 200 pounds, and we thought, man, he was the perfect punk guy because he was punk his whole life. He was older than us, and then Karen looked like she was 12 years old, although she was 20 or whatever. And she used to wear a Catholic schoolgirl uniform. So it was this weird combination of this big, really scary biker guy with this little girl in a Catholic school uniform. It made for a nice duet.
That's amazing. And does that predate his song, Catholic Girls?
Yeah.
It does. Wow.
That's pretty cool.
That's the Catholic Girls Frank Zappa song was my introduction to Frank Zappa because I went to an all-girls Catholic high school. And I listened to it, and that was like my first introduction into Frank Zappa, and I was like, what is this? And of course, you have to listen to more after that. I mean, it's just impossible not to. So yeah, that's actually a pretty fun crossover for you to have that, predate that and then have that song come out. So that's pretty amazing. And actually, Frank Zappa was also self-taught, wasn't he? Just like you. So
yeah. From what I read, yeah.
Yeah.
Since we're all comic people, the other thing that blows my mind about Frank Zappa, I don't know if you are aware of this, but he was neighbors and friends with Jack Kirby.
No way.
No. What?
I mean, if I could be a fly on the wall anywhere, it would be those two having a conversation.
Wow. It does.
Isn't that mind blowing?
Mind blowing.
Yes.
Did they have like barbecues in their neighborhood together? Like, I'm just finding.
I don't know about that, but the Kirby Collector did 2 minor stories about it, nothing in depth, but that they would come over and I guess share a cigar or something. And the latest Kirby Collector, Frank, there's an interview with Kirby and he literally says, my good friend, Frank Zappa, when he mentions him. And the other mind-blowing thing that Glenn Gould hipped me to that I should read the interview was Kirby also said he listened to Prince, which is another one.
Love that. Love that. Good stuff is good stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
Taste is taste.
Yeah,
when I read that, those are 2 heroes of mine, and I think that they hung out together. It's just amazing.
Right?
That's incredible.
Blows my mind. I can see the Prince thing though, because everybody loves Prince. Yeah. But Frank Zappa, that's a taste.
Frank Zappa and Kirby, yeah,
right.
It kind of makes sense though, right? Like especially when Jack would go all cosmic,
To me, they're both geniuses and such. Like in tune with the universe and making up their own stuff. They're just the 2 most creative people I can think of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm still blown away.
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking about that for a while.
As a family, we like to try to curate. Like, if you could have a dinner party with any 5 people, dead or alive, who would it be? And then who would you sit next to the other person? I'm going to be hung up on Frank Zappa and Jack Kirby already knowing each other at this imaginary dinner party, Patrick, that you're having.
And they would have been 2 of the people I would have said that to have at the dinner party. To think they know each other, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did you ever get to meet either of them?
I did get to meet both of them.
Oh wow!
I'll tell you my Frank Zappa story.
Yes.
So I was living in New York, going to the School of Visual Arts, and actually I had Will Eisner as a teacher there. And it was a beautiful fall day, and my roommate and I said, let's skip classes and just walk around town. It's too nice a day. So we we were on 21st Street. We decided to walk up to the Metropolitan Museum. And as we were walking, we're just, 2 young guys just talking about anything. So he asked me if I could meet anybody, who would I want to meet? So I said, I'd like to meet Frank Zappa. That was my answer. And I asked him who he'd like to meet, and he said, Vincent van Gogh. I said, well, good luck with that. And we went to the museum, and then on the walk home, there was a 48th Street in New York used to have a lot of music stores. And the famous one was called Manny's, and they had a lot of drum sets there. And I said, I want to go look at some drums. And we walked in the door, and Frank Zappa was standing there.
Wow.
And I'm really shy, so I didn't do anything. But my friend literally pushed me into Frank Zappa and said, this guy just said he wanted to meet you. And I talked to Frank. Frank couldn't have been any nicer. I told him I was a painter at school, and I'd love to give him one of my paintings. So he gave me the number of the hotel that he was staying at and said, talk to my manager. And I didn't think that was going to work, but I called up, and the manager picked up the phone, and he said, well, why don't you come to the dress rehearsal at the Madison Square Garden, the Felt Forum at the Madison Square Garden. And my friends and I got to sit in the front row and watch an hour rehearsal with Frank Zappa. And then when it was done, he sat down with us and talked to us for literally an hour.
Wow.
Just couldn't be nicer. And, again, it was back when there were no phones. I have no recorded proof of this. Nothing in my memories. But, he did that. And then probably a few years later, when I was in Steel Tips, my band, Karen and I went to one of his concerts. We were waiting outside with a bunch of people to see if he was going to come out. And I gave him, we had a single. We self-produced a single. And we gave him a single of our music. And the next day, he was a guest DJ on WPLJ radio, and he played our single. So those are my 2 big Frank Zappa stories.
Like, what a good friend that was to, shove you in there.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a friend like that,
Yes, knowing me, I probably would have just looked at him and never said anything. But
same. I would have been. Yes, exactly the same. You always need to have that extrovert next to you. Go! Look at what happened because of it. Wow, that's something else. I can't even imagine. That's, it's so funny. Every time we have a guest on here who talks about, one of the famous people that they really are fans of, they always have this amazing story of how they met them. And it's epic. And like, just like yours, where it's just like this weird moment of manifestation, of like thinking about them and being such huge fans. And then suddenly it just happened.
I know. And the day no one's ever asked me that before. And I had to think about it. It's funny that the day I said I'd like to meet him, I met him.
That is crazy.
It is.
And Jack Kirby, I used to, as a 12, 13-year-old, I used to go to the comic conventions in New York. So I met Jack at a convention when I was really young. And then a little later, when I actually had a little money, I actually bought a New Gods page and had him autograph it. So, yeah, and, there again, I was just humming. I can't remember any of the conversation I had. I probably just told him he was great and didn't talk much. But I remember thinking he reminded me of like an old Warner Brothers gangster movie star.
Right.
Edward G. Robinson about him.
He did have that energy.
Patrick, do you remember much about when you met him as a teenager? Like, was he doing head sketches? What was?
Yeah, I think he was there was some booth where he was selling the original art with, Roz, his wife, was there, and I guess he had a couple of people helping him sell the stuff. And, there was a pencil page, which, when I should have bought everything on the wall. They were affordable back then. I mean, for me, it was a lot of money. I forgot what I paid, but, God, not much compared to today. And, so I don't think he was doing sketches as much as selling the stuff. And if you bought it, he would sign it. So it says to Patrick from Jack Kirby on it.
Oh,
so.
That's amazing. It's so funny how things have changed like in the last 20 years, because, back when I got into comics professionally, it was at least over 25 years ago at this point. You could go to conventions and you could just hang out with people and they would just they'd sketch for you, especially when you're a professional, and you just get stuff. And, I have a bunch of stuff, that I can't even believe I have at this point because, Frank Miller just jotting off something and giving it to me at a party, and you think about that and you think, man, if I could go back, I would get so much more. And, now it's like you can't even, get close. You got to pay a lot of money and all this stuff. It's not as free, as it used to be. And I hate to be that person that like talks about the good old days, but man.
No, those were the good old days. And when I think of all the art I saw and didn't have the money to buy, what hasn't changed in 30 to 40 years is, and it's crazy. The art is still handled the way it was, when the pages were $75, mm-hmm. And now you have a Jack Kirby page that's like $100,000 and it's all just tacked on a wall in plastic or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. A fine art gallery, if there was a piece of art for $20,000, it would be in a beautiful framed and protected. And they still tack them up on the wall just the way they did 50 years ago. Even the prices are insane now.
Yeah. And, now everything's done digitally too. So, original pages are almost like a thing of the past, which is kind of a bummer. So
as a kid, did you go to a lot of the comic shows? Did you go and interact with artists? Like, not really?
No, I did go to the conventions, Phil Suling, all those early conventions. No, again, I was pretty shy, and I'll be honest, Jack Kirby was my hero. I liked some other people, but that was the only guy I was really interested in meeting. I went to get some books and the shows were a little different. They used to sell old toys at those things. And I was always interested in looking at the old toys. And there was actually guys who would bring newspaper tear sheets. I was a comic strip guy too, as much as I was a comic book guy. So I was able to buy, Crazy Cat tear sheets from 1930 or 20, and those were maybe $5 a piece, a couple of bucks. So and that was before there were any really good Crazy Cat collections. And so Crazy Cat, Little Nemo, I was able to get those pages, which now there's 10 million books on all those people, but back then there weren't any books on those people. So you actually got to see the actual pages, which were gorgeous. When you look at them now, they're like Japanese woodcut prints, these giant newspapers, and the colors are beautiful.
Mm, yeah. What about you? Did you go to cons?
I met Dave Stevens when I was young. I had my first portfolio. I had just done a comic book about ninjas because it was the late 80s and that was what was happening. And I took my pages in to meet Dave Stevens, and he couldn't have been nicer. He was absolutely great about it.
Yeah, cartoonists in general are really nice people. Comic strip artists. I always feel blessed. I hang around cartoonists and people who help animals. Those are the two nicest people on the planet.
It's true.
How did you get into advocacy for like pets and stuff like that? Is that like always been your passion, or
it literally was through Mutts. I mean, obviously, like most kids, I loved animals, but we had cats. My mom and dad didn't think my siblings and I could handle the dogs, and even though I wanted a dog, mainly because I loved Snoopy, I wanted to have my own Snoopy. But I had to wait a long time until I was in my 30s to get Earl, my dog, and he inspired the comic. Mutts.
Yeah, Earl. Oh.
Yeah, and I wanted in Mutts to make the animals as animal-like as possible. And most cartoons, the animals are just humans in animal costumes, but I wanted to really play on that bond we have with our animals. So I, was trying to see the world through their eyes. And after a year or so, I started thinking about the animals in the shelter and how tough they have it. And it was a slow process to think I could use this strip to help animals, that I can get their message out there. And then I was asked to be on the board of the Humane Society of the United States and started learning about not only the dogs and cats, but how tough it is for so many animals on this planet that I thought I had an opportunity to get that word out. So I took it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's great. Yeah, I rescued my dog, but I didn't get her. I mean, she was my first rescue dog. I never had pets growing up. I think I had like a rabbit, and that was really all my parents wanted us to have. So yeah, I didn't get her until I was, late 40s. So yeah, and it's meaningful. It's very meaningful. So I can see why, your strip and how it relates. It's like an advocate, for animals, like, 'cause you see, their relationship with their humans and, and of course, Earl and Mooch and like all that stuff is just, it's so positive, I guess is the word, because, happy endings and all. Yeah.
That's all. Yeah. I grew up, loving Peanuts, and I just felt like if I could give back any of the joy and comfort that Charles Schulz gave to me in the world, I'd give it a shot.
Well, in that way, I guess you're kind of like Frank Zappa, where, he was an advocate as well. And, but of course he was for free speech, and it was like a whole bunch of other stuff too, I think, right? It wasn't just free speech. It was, I know he had,
just free speech and being involved politically, like in the 80s, if you went to one of his concerts, you could go and register to vote, which was pretty amazing. That like, it wasn't just him like saying free speech is important. It was actually him using his space to try to get people politically involved.
Yeah.
And he warned us relatively early now about, Christofascism and how that was a theocratic government. We're in danger of that. And here we are.
Yeah. He's all over Instagram with that. And it's amazing. He saw what was coming that long ago.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He did.
So, I mean, it's like another example of, people who have a voice using it for, for awareness, which is, I always think, a good thing.
Yeah, have you considered running for president? So here's one of the hardest questions we're going to have for you today. It's a two-part question. Part one, would you have voted for Frank Zappa for president? And two, who should have been on the ballot with him? I did not have an answer to that one as I wrote that in our show notes, but I do now. And it's kind of crazy, and I love it. So would you have voted for Frank Zappa? This goes to everybody.
Oh, geez, I was hoping we wouldn't be talking politics. I guess that's
sideways world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So of course I would have voted for Frank Zappa. How could I not? And who should be his running mate? Geez, I don't know. Charles Schultz.
Jack Kirby, right?
Jack Kirby.
Jack Kirby. Oh my God. What a great VP Jack Kirby would have been. He would have taken no nonsense. I'll suck you in the mouth.
And he probably would have still done all his artwork at the same time.
Yeah, that's right. He's like, wait a minute, I'm drawing. I'll get back to him.
Yeah, I totally would have voted for Frank Zappa. Like that would have been absolutely, especially because we were in that time period of like Tipper Gore. Oh my God, that was my high school years. And man, we were all so against her. So much. Yeah, totally would have voted for him. So, yeah.
I think our country's been crazy for a long time.
Speaking of musicians, Frank is the godfather of comedic music, comedic pop. What about Tim Minchin? What about Bo Burnham? Are you fans of them?
Give me those names again.
Tim Minchin. He's another hilarious. Well, I'm happy to introduce you to him. Tim Minchin is someone that, as a Frank Zappa fan, you might want to check out. Hilarious musician. British. Just got an honorary degree from some university. He gave a hilarious speech. And Bo Burnham, of course, is the latest version of the kind of piano playing comedian.
Well, it's funny. I mean, I think Frank Zappa stuff does have a sense of humor. I think that kind of drew me to it, but it's not my favorite part of Frank Zappa. I mean, I just think musically, he just took so many chances and made such interesting music that was different than everybody else's, and still holds up today. It still sounds fresh and new. So I think musically, and just how smart he was too.
Gotcha. That was the next question. Actually, was what aspect of his music did you? Yeah,
I like the early stuff. I mean, later on, I think it did become a little more about the lyrics and being. And I understand that's a whole. It's not my favorite stuff of his, and I understand. It is what it is. But no, I enjoyed the really early albums and the things that were more jazz-like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
That makes sense. And also he was just the type of person who just followed, his own path,
Yeah.
And it's very rare that you can do that and become so successful at it, and just not listen to like what anybody else is doing and just take what you love and put it out there and then have everyone just, go nuts for it because it's different than anything else. I mean, not a lot of people can find their vision like he did, which was,
Yeah, that's one of the reasons he was so inspiring. He wasn't, worried about the commercial aspect of it. He was worried about the art of it. So,
yeah, true artist for sure. Yeah.
And there is still a quality of sound that is, it sounds like it was recorded yesterday, the early stuff. It's so quality.
Yeah.
We have a sponsor.
Bless them.
Let's have a word from them.
Let's have words from our sponsors. Words from our sponsors now.
Mary Tyler Moore Hawk action figures. Mary Tyler Moore Hawk action figures.
Mary Tyler Moore Hawk!
Eisner Award-nominated cartoonist Dave Baker's mind-bending graphic novel, Mary Tyler Moore Hawk, is equal parts sweeping action-adventure graphic novel
And dystopian detective story.
that weaves back and forth between worlds, touching on everything from corporate personhood to mutant sharkmen to the meaning of fandom
And reality itself.
It's a show you don't remember and a book you won't forget. Mary Tyler Moore Hawk's retro action figures are available at the finest toy stores everywhere.
Mary Tyler Moore Hawk. The action Mary Tyler Moore Hawk. The action figures.
I'm gonna get that!
Welcome back to the Superfan podcast.
With today's guest, Patrick McDonnell.
So what do you think about the song Valley Girl? Just out of curiosity.
It's funny. I mean, I'm glad he had a hit. I think he made some money off of that. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy about that. And, it's silly. Again, the comedic stuff wasn't the things I was really listening to. So the later Zappa, I mean, he was still producing some interesting things, but it's more the early stuff that really inspired me.
Yeah, I remember hearing that. I did not live in California at the time like I do now, but, I lived in Chicago. So there was very much, the whole Valley Girl thing came our way, but later, way later. And so when I heard that song, it was a little bizarre to me. It was almost like listening to somebody speak a different language. And then, of course, suddenly it hit after that. And so it was a very weird, prescient thing.
Yeah, it's so good, right? He's satirizing it, and then he makes it popular.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute, it's like Upton Sinclair with the Jungle. He's like, socialism. They're like, hey, are they doing that to the meat?
Okay, so Google this. Another interesting fact. He and Jack Kirby tried, I think there's like 2 or 3 dailies where they did a Valley Girl comic strip together.
Oh.
Wow. So,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't go anywhere, but there's examples of it.
Wow.
Huh. I mean, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, why wouldn't it? Yeah. Okay, so are there any Zappa stories that are like your favorites of like his life or like his, something that you knew of him that like just made you love him even more?
Well, just recently, the Hot Rats record that I talked about had, I don't know, got some anniversary, who knows, 40, 30 years, whatever it was. And they put out a book, a photographer put out a book of photographs of Frank in the studio making that album. But the thing that was interesting, and it's a little bit like my story, how generous Frank was. But this photographer was a kid in college, and he kind of took pictures. And Frank Zappa was playing in the town where his college was. And he asked the college newspaper, can he go and take pictures and interview him? And they said, sure, go ahead. So when the band was done playing, Frank went into the room for the press people, and he was one of them. And the press, this was early on in the band. And the press were asking him all silly questions, but this kid was a fan, so he was asking them really good questions. And Frank took note that, this kid knew something. And then while he was doing the press conference, the band came in and said, well, the bus is leaving. We're going back to the hotel. And Frank said, I'm staying for the interview. And then when the interview was over, he asked the audience, can anyone drive him to the hotel? And this kid said, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Drove him to the hotel, but on the way to the hotel, the kid went back to his house and introduced him to his mom and gave him a sandwich. And then after Frank drew him to the hotel, Frank said, well, if you're ever in Laurel, I think Frank lived in Laurel Canyon. So if you're ever in Laurel Canyon, come visit. And the kid took him up on it, and he stayed with Frank Zappa for like 2 weeks.
Oh my
and
God.
Photographed him. But to me, it's just so, for how big Frank was back then, it was still like a real world where just like some kid could get a ride with, like when you think of how rock stars' lives are today, that it was still like a real world that a kid could do that.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine that happening nowadays, but yeah, like, that's very down to earth,
It shows you how generous Frank was. And, from what I read, that was Jack Kirby and Roz Kirby too, that all these fans would come to the house and Roz Kirby would feed them. Jack would talk to them. It's like, it's amazing how generous they were, considering how busy they were. When I look at how much work Jack did, where he had time to do anything, is amazing.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And I do a daily comic strip, and it's really, really crazy. But I think Jack's amount of work even tops that.
Yeah, no kidding. Was there, like, speaking in general about like music and Frank Zappa and everything that you love about that, did it influence you in any way, like in your work or like, in your life? Have you taken aspects of that? Do we see it somewhere, I guess?
Well, the artwork, Ozzy is kind of
Frank Zappa. Yeah.
Frank Zappa,
yeah.
to a certain extent. And, the Frank Zappa's humor, is definitely part of it. It was a big influence how I played drums and the music I made.
Right.
Maybe not as much in the strip, but in my comic strip, I had title panels and I would do variations of different pieces of art. So there's a lot of Frank Zappa album covers.
I can go back and look at that.
And there was a couple of strips that even had Frank Zappa concepts that I made jokes about.
Oh.
So Zappa fans know that I've given little nods here and there.
That's cool. That's really cool. So if there's since you were in a band and you were concurrently going to school for art, does it, like, since obviously you're just like an artsy person, you know, is there ever a time when those two converged? Like, you know, where you were like, oh no, like, which one do I want to follow more? Like, should I go for the music or should I go for the art, you know?
Well, I'll tell you a story about that. So, you know, I was in college growing up, and I started getting a few magazine illustration jobs while I was in college. And when I graduated college, I had a weekly illustration job for the New York Times Magazine. And, you know, it wasn't a lot of money, but I was starting to make a living with it. So one time we were playing CBGBs, and you didn't make any money at CBGBs. Mm. And so we decided, we were all from New Jersey, so the rock clubs in Jersey didn't want to have punk rock. They were afraid of it. So we had to convince this club to let us play there. And we said, you don't have to pay us. We'll just take 50% of the door. And boy, we made the most money we ever made because people in Jersey wanted to see punk rock. So we were playing at CBGB's with Ramones, and we mentioned it to the Ramones. And they said, well, book us in New Jersey. So we played with Ramones in Jersey, and we got to hang out with them backstage. And at that point, they were the biggest punk band. But now, nowhere near as big as they got. When you were the biggest punk band back then, that didn't mean much. You know, but they had a record. No, not many bands had records. So they were what we were striving to be. And we remember asking what their life was like. And I think it was March, and they had already done like 80 gigs.
Oh, my God.
And the record company was paying them, I think, $90 a piece.
Oh, geez.
Wow.
You know, and that's when I realized maybe I'll do art instead of music. I think they were getting paid $90 a week to go on tour that much. And that, you know, so yeah, that was eye-opening to my wife and I.
Yeah, I bet. Well, I mean, it's the same way in comics, honestly.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm like, if you're going to get into this for the money,
yeah,
look elsewhere. You know? But
at the end of the day, I think the Ramones did fine.
Yes,
but,
they did.
Yes.
But back then, it was a little different.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Ramones ended up, you know, they stuck with it. So, yeah, good for them. I mean, following their passion.
Is there
but I think the art was closer to my heart. You know, it's, you know, kind of more personal and more controlled. You know, when you're in a band, it's kind of crazy and you're not in control at all.
Other people.
There's fun to that too, though.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So one of the things I would like to talk about a little bit is the Peanuts Christmas special.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Because that Vince Guaraldi music.
Yeah, true.
You know, I think that really influenced me as a kid. You know, that music was so perfect for Peanuts. And I mean, it was jazz. And I think that was the first example of jazz for young kids. And I think that was an influence, you know, that got me to listen to Frank Zappa because I was already used to something that wasn't pop music.
Yeah.
I think and I can't think of names off the top of my head, but I remember reading different professional jazz players saying that Vince Guaraldi's Christmas special, you know, the Charlie Brown Christmas special influenced them to become jazz musicians. So I think, boy, that music still holds up. I think Charles Schultz was really lucky that it all came together because that music, I can't think of any music that is just perfect for the tone of the strip.
Absolutely. And it's like, it's very prevalent all throughout it. Like even like with the teacher talking and stuff like that, you know, like with the horns, it's just, it's very musical. It's
impossible to imagine any other music going to that special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I never even thought about how influential that music would be to others. That's really fascinating.
Yeah. You know, that Christmas special had a lot of firsts. I mean, the fact that they didn't have a laugh track was big. The fact that they used actual kids to do the voices was totally different.
Wow.
And to have a jazz trio do the music, that was unheard of.
Yeah.
You know, for how Charles Schultz in his own way was a real radical. He was a little Frank Zappa himself. He doesn't come two totally opposite people.
It's true. It's true. He fought to have Franklin included in the story.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, the strip itself, when it first came out, was unlike any other strip. It was revolutionary. The things he talked about and how he drew it. And the same with the Christmas special. That was revolutionary, that thing. And it still holds up today.
Yeah.
So charm. And part of that is definitely the music. That the music really set the tone. Did you
know Charles at all, or?
Yeah, no, Sparky and I were good friends.
Oh, how cool is that?
A highlight of being a cartoonist was getting to meet my hero and become friends with him.
Yeah, I bet you got all the stories then, huh?
Now I look back and say, geez, I wish I would have talked to him over. I respected him. And I never called him. He would call me. And we would see each other at the National Cartoonist Society. But I just figured he was so busy. And on occasion, I would go out to California and spend time with him.
Wow, that's really.
And he actually put my character Earl in the Peanuts comic strip.
Did he? When was that?
The last year, I think 1999. He did a week of his kids going to a museum.
Uh-huh.
And he did a daily where most of the kids are looking at a Monet. He actually Xeroxed a Monet painting. And reruns off to the corner, and he's looking at a painting of my dog Earl, and just looking at. And I was visiting him at his. He has an ice skating rink. And
I know that.
And so it had its own little restaurant called the Warm Puppy, and I was waiting for him at his table. He had a table assigned to him. And he came down. He was holding something behind his back. He said, "Patrick, I have something that's going to knock your socks off." And he handed me this original that had Earl in it.
Oh,
wow!
My socks fly off every time I look at it.
Oh, I bet. Wow, that's priceless. Can't even.
And he was everything you'd want the guy to draw Peanuts to be.
Oh,
couldn't have been nicer, kinder, funnier. Yeah, just a great guy.
I'm so glad to hear that. Hearing other stories, not so much. I always love it when, people meet like the heroes and they turn out to be everything they want them to be. That's just.
It's funny. And thinking about it, Jack Kirby was that way. Frank Zappa that way.
And that's great. Yeah. I mean,
you're 3 for 3.
Exactly.
And I never met Vince Giraldi, but maybe he was that way too.
How did Giraldi get that gig? How did that work? Do you know anything about that?
I think the producer, Bill Melendez, is that his name?
Yeah.
Charles Schultz was based out of the San Francisco area, and so was the producer. And Vince Giraldi was playing in San Francisco, and I think he heard one of Giraldi's song on the local San Francisco radio and just thought it sounded great. And I think they did a special together about baseball or something. I'm getting it wrong. I'm sure you could Google it.
Sure.
But they put the music with Peanuts' artwork, Charles Schultz's artwork, and then they decided that he'd be great for the Christmas special.
So fantastic. The importance of local radio.
Yeah.
Hear that, Clear Channel?
I love that you wanted to talk about the Christmas special today. As a family, we are really, really deeply into the holidays. And as a kid growing up, I loved that so much. I loved the Christmas special. We had it, all of the Christmas specials recorded on one VHS tape. And my little sister and I would start watching them in mid-November. And I have a niece now, and I was so excited to just watch a little bit of the Christmas special. And we started, and I forgot how relentlessly adult and depressing it is.
and slow by today's time.
And very slow. And she doesn't really watch any TV. And so she gets like 2 minutes of screen time, like every 10 times that she comes over to our house to have family supper on Sunday night. And we're like 3 minutes in, and I'm watching Snoopy get excited. well, ice skating, and I was like, this is the peak moment. We're going to go back to sad Charlie Brown in a second. In a couple of years when she's ready. But the new so great. I mean, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah. Everything came together for that.
That's like a tradition for almost everyone I know, is to watch a Charlie Brown special, even if it's like The Great Pumpkin or like whatever it is. It's it's almost ingrained. I don't know if it's like generational or whatever. I don't know if younger kids are doing it now, but I feel like it's just going to get passed down, and it's just going to be like an evergreen thing that's built into people's holidays at this point. Which that's an achievement right there. I mean, that's just.
And that music is like holiday music. Like
it is.
Every time you hear it, even without the special,
it's
like favorite Christmas music.
Absolutely is. Which it's very nostalgic almost. But
with a daily comic strip, you have to be like a month and a half ahead of the deadline. So in my house, around October, I'm playing the Charlie Brown Christmas special music while I'm drawing much cartoons about Christmas.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty funny. I didn't realize you guys were that. I mean, that makes sense because in comics we're so far ahead as well. I mean, right now we're doing Christmas stories, so
you're further ahead than I am right now. September.
Yep. Yeah, and because your book is like we're figuring it out for October, so next year. So, yeah. So we're full on into the horror spooky stuff right now for you. Yeah,
we love the holiday baking shows, right? And especially like the Christmas ones. And but really the Halloween ones are the ones we get most excited about. And I got a certain legendary comic book artist known for horror to be invited as one of the judges for the season. And we ended up not pursuing that opportunity, in part because he didn't want to record it in the middle of June when we would have had to in order to be ready to broadcast. But would have been so fun. Before we let you go, Patrick, I've got one more question, and my co-host might as well. But, not only are there a lot of Zappa references in Mutts, but you've got like tributes to the Stones, the Beatles, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, the Clash. Like, do you remember when you first started working those in?
Yeah, actually, I was doing Mutts for quite a while, and I wanted to, most people with the title panels just had a standard, formatted title. But because I was a fan of Crazy Cat and the way he played with the Crazy Cat title, I figured it was an opportunity to have some fun. And at first, the first months, I was doing art, but it was just my ideas. And then I'm a big fan of the painter Basquiat. So the first one I did, I thought it would be fun to do a tribute to him and do Mutts in that way. And I really enjoyed doing that. So then it just became a habit. After I started doing that, I started doing different album covers and book covers and a lot of Jack Kirby covers. And I would do something I liked, but I also would try to find something that would add to the joke of the Sunday page, so something that related back to the joke. And actually, when I did the Robert, you guys familiar with the Robert Crumb Big Brother and the Holding Company Cheap Thrills cover? So I not only did I do the title page, but I did the whole comic as a tribute to that cover. And actually got a letter from the guitarist from Big Brother and the Holding Company. And I gave him a print of the strip, and he gave me a DVD of the band.
Oh, that's really awesome. That's legit. Nicely done. Okay, I think the last question that I think David is alluding to is, do you know someone by the name of Dana Mooreshead?
Give me that name again.
Dana Mooreshead.
Boy, that's ringing a bell. I'm going to help me.
You don't need to know who it is. There's no help needed. You either know them or you don't. If you don't, it's okay. And that's it for us, I think, right?
Yeah, that is.
Okay.
Thanks so much. That was fun. I talked about music for that long in years.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was really enjoyable on this side, too. Man, you have some great stories. They are just out of the world. Yeah, absolutely enjoyed it so much.
I will never get over Frank Zappa knowing Jack Kirby. I thank you so much for that. I will never. It's fantastic. In my mind, they're going to have all kinds of adventures now.
Yeah, there's a great the Kirby collector. There's a great picture of the two of them together. So
nice.
definitely look into that. Yeah, I'd like to know more about that myself.
Yeah, no kidding. All right.
So much fun. It was great.
Thanks, Patrick. Great to meet you.
Thanks so much. Yeah, it was a real pleasure. Thank you.
So we just wrapped up talking with Patrick about Zappa and about the Charlie Brown Christmas special and music and punk rock and all sorts of things. And that's a wrap on the first season of the podcast. How you guys feel?
Yeah, feeling pretty good. You know what? I thoroughly enjoyed every single episode that we did in this season. I thought I loved every single guest. It was just so fun to talk to them and have them, go on and on about what they were fans of.
Man, seriously, I feel like going home from Disneyland and I don't want to leave, I'm like, I don't want to leave Disneyland. Can we just, can we do it more right now?
It's true.
It was like so fun and so amazing to see these creators talking about this stuff that meant so much to them.
Yeah.
And it was funny with Patrick for him to be like, Frank Zappa's cool, but Charles Schultz in the Christmas special also, he was the twofer. He's like, you know what? I'm not just a one-dimensional fan here.
That's right.
Me and Sparky go back.
And I loved hearing about his punk rock days.
Totally.
I mean, you would never...
No way.
Never guess that.
I would never guess that he played with the Ramones.
The guy who draws the mutts played with the Ramones in a punk band. Just...
That was pretty fun, though, man. Seriously, every guest, it was so great to see them outside of the typical element that they get when they're in an interview. To see them outside of like, hey, how's your project? When does it come out? Promote. It's like, no, we're going to talk about you.
And once again, we see, how their love
always
comes into their art.
Always. Like with Patrick, it was right away.
It was. And, like as soon as he said that Ozzy looked like Frank Zappa, my mind was blown because I was like, oh my God.
There it is again.
Yes. Yes, it is. Yes. Why didn't I see that? Can't believe it. Yeah.
Every time.
Mm-hmm.
Every time.
Totally missed that.
I love how a number of the people consciously or unconsciously manifested meeting the person that has inspired them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? And like on the same day that Patrick says, I wish I could meet Frank Zappa, he meets Frank Zappa.
That was insane.
It makes me want to who do I want to meet?
Right.
Can I just broadcast that out and do it? Like I'm trying to think, because I mean, when you think about it, you're like, oh, well, it's not unreasonable, but I mean, it kind of is because when you think about like Mark Guggenheim meeting Billy Joel and the way that happened, and then you think about a random music store, and it's just, God, it's so weird. It's just so random.
Yeah. So who, not to put you on the spot, but do either of you know who you would want to meet?
Gosh.
I mean, it happened to me already. I wanted to meet Jim Cameron and I was making Volume 4 of the Red Star, Sword of Lies, and I'm sitting there in Wellington, New Zealand, literally in command of the greatest design room in concept design history, as far as I'm concerned. And you got the guys that did the Lord of the Rings films, King Kong for Peter Jackson, and did 20 years of hits after that. And I'm sitting there, and I've paid them to do my book, and it's the only graphic novel that they've ever done, other than one other that was in-house. And in walks James Cameron and John Landau. And so that was crazy. Talk about the best way to meet your hero, right? When you're like absolutely working. It was his first tour of the facility because they were going to do Avatar. And so they had never seen it before. Peter Jackson's guiding them around. There's Peter. I had known him from working on King Kong. And there's the great Eileen Moran, God rest her soul. And Fran Walsh, Peter's partner, was there. And they're all just having to wait. They're all just having to wait as Jim Cameron talks to me. And he won't stop talking. And it was just a blast. So that I kind of had mine happen.
There's never anyone really huge that I've been dying to meet, to be honest.
What about you, David? Who would you want to meet?
Well, because of what I do as a publicist, I've been lucky to meet like a lot of creative people who are hugely impactful on my life. Probably one of the best experiences I had was as a very junior publicist at Vintage Books at Random House, I got to work on the first ever English translation of Norwegian Wood by the great novelist Haruki Murakami. And I got to meet Mr. Murakami very briefly. He'd been out for a very long lunch, an old school publishing lunch, if you follow, with his editor. And he came by and said hello, and he was very shy. I get very shy. Like generally speaking, when I have to professionally, I can be very outgoing. But left to my own devices as an actual person, not somebody like in my work role, I'm very, very shy. So
Agreed,
he's very shy, he's Japanese, but I did ask him to sign a copy of Norwegian Wood to my then girlfriend, now wife, Dara. And in this amazing turn of events, I have to be careful how I say this depending on when this will air, but I'm getting to work with Mr. Murakami again many years later. And even though it was a very brief interaction, it was like such a amazing moment in his career because he was just getting his English fan base, right? And to be a part of that in any way was spectacular. And in part because not only am I a huge fan, but my wife Dara is a huge fan, and now our son is a huge fan. But as a professional in the comics industry, when you're not on the creative side, there really is a balancing act about where are the boundaries. And I feel like particularly today, as we're all in touch in weird ways, like when are you friendly? How friendly are you?
Yes,
I loved some of the anecdotes that Patrick shared, about these really creative but very open-hearted people. And, there is that instinct to say that people won't be like that now.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, it's true in some ways, but I feel like those moments still happen.
Well, and there's that whole thing of like, don't meet your heroes. Like that's an actual saying because they're going to let you down.
And so he goes 3 for 3.
Yeah. Well,
great.
most that we've talked to have had positive experiences.
Yeah.
So, I think of Rodney Barnes and I think of, Mark Guggenheim. They had incredibly positive experiences meeting, their fandoms.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But one of the commonalities, even though the guests that we had on this season were all so different, they're all very big-hearted, curious people. And I feel like part of it is the energy that you bring, right? So, like, I don't meet Carmine Infantino because at that moment, like, I know I'm just going to be manifesting my nervousness, right? I have a wingman there to help me through that moment. But in these other, whether it's as active as Rodney Barnes, like, actively working to manifest Stephen King into his life, or Mark Guggenheim's family helping make the connection to Billy Joel. It's not like they're going in with expectations, right?
Right.
They're just people who are fans.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the dangerous thing of these days, that we have culturally a lot of expectations for how we expect other people to behave, right?
God, well said. Well said. And it's true. One of the things I loved about the guests as well was if you were listening to this podcast and you thought, because you're a young person in today's world, that you have got to, be a certain way and act a certain way and protect yourself, and you meet these people and you'd be like, wow, okay, no, I can really just be myself. I really can. And there's something about deep, deep authenticity that is not performative, and right. That's not right. It's the opposite. These people are just these big-hearted, like you said, these big-hearted people. They do what they do. They're not chasing any trends. They are literally who they are, and that's still even in today's world of, well, you have to be a brand. You have to be a brand.
Oh God.
In today's world, it's like, do you though? Do you have to be a brand, or do you just have to be yourself?
Yeah, that's boy, that's really fascinating to think about that. Do you have to be a brand or do you have to be yourself?
This first season of the Superfan podcast proves it that the way you become a brand is by not trying to be one at all.
Absolutely. You're right. That's definitely what it established right there, which is something I think we should take away from this. Absolutely. Is just, do what you love and
don't chase things.
Yeah. Don't chase things. Don't copy people. Just find your inner, uniqueness and move forward on it, Yeah.
I was at the Hollywood Bowl a few weeks ago and I saw Dimension 20 and these kids are playing Dungeons and Dragons on the stage of the Hollywood Bowl. And they asked the DM, whose name escapes me at the moment, they asked him, hey, so, did you think that you're going to be, that it was when you started doing Dimension 20 on this on this online, when you started playing D&D with your friends online, that you would end up on stage at the Hollywood Bowl and they sold out Madison Square Garden. And he was like, no. And that was never about that. It was never about that. It's never about it.
Yeah.
We're not trying to be a brand. We became one because we're just having so much fun.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a great note to wrap on.
Yep. I think so.
Well, thanks to our listeners. Thanks to season 1 superheroes, I believe is the right word. The folks over at Fanbase Press have been a title sponsor of season 1.
Yay, Fanbase Press.
We love you.
Love.
Thanks to all of our guests for coming on and filling up the days with us with their enthusiasm and opening us up to new things to discover.
Yes.
Guys, for being along, and hope to talk to you all again soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. The Superfan Podcast is a production of Superfan Media. This episode was edited by Bryant Dillon with production help by Fanbase Press, who is a title sponsor of Season 1. The Superfan Podcast logo is designed by Chriswell Lappin, whose design work can be seen at chriswelllappin.com. The theme song was written by friend of the podcast Dan Schulman and performed by Low in the Shag.
And now, a word about our sponsors. Fanbase Press is the title sponsor of Season 1 of the Superfan Podcast. Media award-winning and an Eisner and Harvey Awards-nominated comic book publisher and geek culture website, Fanbase Press produces new and distinctive works, as well as daily reviews, interviews, and podcasts that span the pop culture spectrum and give voice to the themes, ideals, and people that make geekdom so exceptional.